I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
got it.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Mars?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's
The doctor lived next door to the janitor to the reverend and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be gorgeous, brilliant, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel unsure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. It's by Marianne Williamson. She ran for president. As a matter of fact, Nelson Mandela used that very same poem in his inauguration speech when he became the first Black president of the free South Africa. Without further ado, we're going to start off with our first guest today, Councilman Martin Mitchell, candidate for mayor of the city of Laurel. Good morning, Councilman. How are you?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing today?
You always play so easy, so laid back, so cool. What's happening with you, man?
Man, you know, hey, that's what life is all about, being cool, calm, and collected. And so, yeah, I definitely try to stay cool. And I appreciate that quote you used about dimming your light. You know, I was on a podcast the other day, and she was talking about how, you know, sometimes you have a vibrant personality and you dim your light based on the room you go into. But don't dim your light. You know, shine brightly.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. So, Councilman, you're running for mayor, I understand, of the city of Laurel.
Well, to stay corrected, you know, I was. So I was one of the candidates, and I came in a close second place after, you know, the wildest race in municipal politics, I would say.
When was the election?
November 7th.
Okay.
Yeah. It was ugly, I would say, but there was so many lessons learned, you know, and you know, I'm still active. I'm still, you know, showing up at meetings, still involved. Right now, I'm focused on the state house because we got a lot of bills that I want to make sure to get passed this year that are going to impact not only Laurel but the state of Maryland.
Elections don't make leaders.
Yeah, you told me that, Donnie. You told me that, and I remain encouraged. I remain encouraged. You don't have to be elected to serve. You don't got to be team captain and lead. So, absolutely.
What issues are you looking forward to dealing with in Annapolis?
So the first one being, have you heard of one fair wage?
Tell me about it.
So one fair wage basically means that, the people who work in the restaurant industry, a lot of people don't understand that they make a sub minimum wage. In the state of Maryland, they make 363 plus tips. And so, yes, that's a sub minimum wage because we know that just January 1st, it got raised to what, $15 an hour, for everybody. But that still doesn't apply to people in the restaurant industry. And so this push is to
And
bring
and
them
this
up.
is this is because they get tips to supplement their salary.
Exactly. But here's the thing about that, right? Federal law says if you make a sub minimum wage and your tips do not bring you up to the state minimum wage, that your employer is supposed to subsidize, like make up the difference. Meaning if you make 363 an hour and you only tip $1 because there's only one table and they were a terrible tipper, that means you made 483. Most of the businesses don't make up that difference between 483 to which was 1325, but now 15. Right.
You know,
And so
that's the way it's always been.
it's a direct legacy of slavery, Johnny. That's exactly what it's about, and that's why this push is about. To be clear with you, one of the biggest reason it started was because after the emancipation, right, you had freed black slaves who then went to work in the food industry, the restaurant industry, and it was supposed to be a privilege to work in this restaurant for tips, and that's still the mindset to this day, right? Like I was talking to, a bunch of servers, a bunch of bartenders. The bartenders were excited about the possibility of making more money. They've seen some of their friends go to DC, where DC they're now making $16 an hour plus tips. But then they also said what's good for the business must be good for the worker. But that's not always true. And those
Have
two are
you
not
ever
mutually
worked?
exclusive.
Two questions.
Sure.
Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was my first job. My first job, my second job, my third job.
In what capacity?
So I worked as a server. I worked as a to go waiter, and then I also worked in the kitchen.
When you were a waiter, were you in the state of Maryland?
Of course, yeah. Yes, sir. I was
Now,
definitely in the state of Maryland.
now here's the second question.
Hmm?
Have you ever owned a restaurant?
No.
Somebody has to make up, according to you. Hey there, Byron. Someone has to make up. You're looking at the restaurant owner to make up the difference if the waiter doesn't make enough tips.
Well, that's what federal law states. The federal law states that employer should bring them up to the state minimum wage because the only reason they're allowed to pay them a sub minimum wage is because they believe their minimum wage is going to eclipse the minimum wage, or they're gonna make up to that amount. And so if they don't, yes, it's up to the employer because they only made 483 that hour. And that's kind of the one thing about those type of things is very difficult to enforce. Speaking to people in the industry, speaking to enforcement agencies, it's like 84% unenforceable when it comes to like, does your employer bring you up to has he ever bought you or have they ever bought you up to the minimum wage? So it's very unenforceable.
Do you think the DC restaurant business is more lucrative than the Maryland restaurant business?
So I would have to look at the numbers to see that, like, if Maryland is actually making more money. I can say that looking at the numbers for DC, they've actually, like, the DC restaurants have made more money and they've actually grown and their employers have been able to be more financially stable. But I can't say, like, the DC market makes necessarily more than the Maryland market. I know that when I look at the Maryland market, I think about Ocean City. Like Ocean City is a big part of that Maryland restaurant economy, especially in the spring and summer months. But one of the
Listen, to,
things in
listen,
DC,
listen to what you just said,
yeah,
especially in the spring and summer.
yeah, absolutely,
Like
absolutely.
what about right now? Ocean
What
City
about
right now.
Ocean City right now is slow, but you hire a lot less employees during this time. You don't have the same staff as you would in the summer or springtime in any of these establishments, especially in Ocean City.
Fair enough.
You know, but I will say that what we've seen in
So
DC,
so
right?
so so that goes to say that a waiter like you, like me, one of us might get cut.
Donnie, although this is very possible,
So so
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. We're looking at the possibility of you now being able to have one job to sustain yourself, or two, as opposed to three or four. So if you're asking me, like just economically speaking, if I lost my part-time job, but I now had a full-time job that pays me better, is that not a benefit to me? Sure, I believe it is of a benefit to you. You know what I mean? But you also retain a higher quality workforce. You got to understand that like the turnover rate is very bad, not only because of the conditions you have to accept, right? We got to understand that this industry took a hit during COVID, right?
yeah, it did.
Employees, the industry itself. So employees dropped. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of employees dropping, but still, what there is in the industry overwhelmingly is majority women, and majority women of color.
What?
Yes. Yes. So I think it's 62% of the restaurant industry in Maryland is woman, and I think it was like 50% was like majority women of color. So surprisingly enough, it's not just an economic issue, but it's also a woman's right issue. Donnie, this is something that you and I don't experience a
You
lot
are
of times.
framing this in a way that I have never heard it
Hear
framed
me out.
before.
Exactly. But this is why I'm the guy, Donnie. This is why I'm the guy. Hear me out. So you and I never experienced this, but I will say that there's a pervasive culture sometimes in the restaurant industry where sexual harassment is tolerated. Inappropriate comments are tolerated, and why is this tolerated? A lot of times because there's no HR, right? And then two is because a lot of times your dependency and your livelihood is relying on tips. So you not only receive inappropriate behavior sometimes from the patrons, but also from the manager and the leadership. I can tell you personally, I've worked in the industry and I've heard many stories of like managers cutting shifts or not, treating someone differently because they didn't reciprocate, flirting or gestures towards them, right? And that's not okay. But this is something that will help professionalize the industry because it wouldn't just be an industry that is reliant completely on tips. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be my privilege to work in your restaurant and make you money. You could pay me a living wage and people can still tip me. At the end of the day, I am not tipping you based on you making a $4 hourly wage. Because as I told most of the employees prior to working in the industry or fighting for this cause, I had no clue the sub minimum wage or what you guys were making. So the assertion that like
I'm confused. You said you used to be a waiter, though.
yes, but you gotta understand, Donnie. I'm 33 years old. I hadn't been a waiter since I was in college, and even when I was in college, the minimum wage was still 363. You know what I mean? So I had no idea that they had not raised it for sub minimum tipped workers because ever since then they have been raising it for everyone else.
Or maybe I'm just lost in the sauce. I mean, when I was a waiter, it was 201 an hour.
Well, that had to be a little minute ago. That had to be a little minute ago because I will say Maryland's 363, and I know that it was
But
still
I'm gonna
three. It
tell
was
you,
still that
I
3 hour range.
always made my tips.
Exactly, as you should, because you're a personable person, Donnie. But what if you made your tips and you also had a little bit in your paycheck? Well, what if your paychecks didn't look like 40, 50, $60? Because like I will tell you, my food paycheck never paid a bill. My food paycheck never paid one bill, Donnie.
I'll tell you this: if you worked at a hotel as a waiter, you were a little better off than if you worked at a restaurant alone. I wanted to share this with you. Back when the empowerment zone was in effect here in the city of Baltimore, the empowerment zone helped create jobs, it helped finance businesses, it helped people buy homes. The two businesses that the empowerment zone, the federally funded empowerment zone, would not finance were brothels, which is obvious,
Okay.
but also restaurants. I came to learn that restaurants were just not very bankable. To run a restaurant
Sure.
is
Sure.
tenuous, it's uncertain, it's dubious. It's the most it's the least bankable investment. And so when you have a restaurant that does succeed, last night I was at Moe's. I asked them if they had DoorDash, and they were like, "No." They're very protective. A
They're
strong
missing out.
restaurant
No. They're missing out. They're missing out. But I want to hear their argument on why they don't have it. I would love to hear that one.
because they want people to come to the restaurant.
They're missing hundreds of thousands by not having DoorDash or Uber Eats. Because I would tell you, even talking to some business owners, it takes their business to the next level once they're able to actually deliver. Because you got to understand,
I don't know their full argument, but I can tell you
that
this:
I would love to
they
hear. That's what I was.
they were adamantly no, and I think I got the sense that it takes away jobs.
From
And
no from them.
and and it,
No,
and it
I didn't
kills.
get that.
This is a restaurant that's open every day of the year.
Wait, you said Moe's?
Yeah, Moe's Towson.
The south, like the southwest spot, like they got the tacos and the burritos and
No. Moe's Seafood.
oh, okay. That's a little bit different. I understand that. Moe's seafood. Okay, but for the most part, I've talked to a lot of the business owners. COVID has changed the way they do business, especially the restaurant owners. Like
And
a lot of them have moved to that carry out or that delivery. You know what I mean? Not as many people are dining in. You know what I mean? Like,
they
and
want you
so
to come to that restaurant.
they want.
And they take a lot of pride in that restaurant. It is family oriented. It's the same people who've been working there for years.
No, I hear that, but here's the thing. I'm not saying it's gonna take jobs because at the end of the day, you weren't gonna have people in the store that was delivering it. Most of the part will be Uber Eats or DoorDash. The one thing I would say is they're limiting their profit margins necessarily because what I've seen, even from like a local restaurant, Shaw, right? We have a Shaw's Halal Food. The first 2 months they didn't have any DoorDash, Uber Eats. Soon as they went to it, I went to that owner the next week, and he said that like his profit margins almost doubled just by moving to the online ordering platform and delivery platform. You know what I mean? And he said like, man, there was so much money they were missing out on the first like 45 or 60 days because they didn't have it set up. And so like, that's just kind of playing devil's advocate, saying that like he could be missing some profits. And although he's trying to keep it, home vibes, and he's trying to get you to come in, we still appreciate that. But I still would question if they could make more money if they actually allow people to have it delivered as well. If they broaden their audience and you know.
Hey Lenny, I just put the link in the comments there. But I worked with this gentleman right here. Matter of fact, I was head waiter. I'm gonna make
Okay,
my tips. I'm gonna make my tips, cousin.
I
But
agree with you.
this cat right here, Lenny Dawson, he was the chef who made sure I got the cooks. He moved from Baltimore out to Wisconsin, and he now has started a barbecue truck. And
Nice.
let me tell you, he can cook. My favorite dish was this crab and shrimp Norfolk. It was lump crab meat and shrimp sauteed and lemon, butter, white wine, mushrooms, and garlic, guaranteed to knock your socks off. But anyway, he has a comment, and he says that food trucks took over since COVID.
That's not a lie. I'm a foodie myself, and I've seen storefronts turn into mobile food trucks. I've seen storefronts that closed because their storefront wasn't doing as well, and they're just operating their food trucks now. So I mean, I agree with him, but we need better regulations, especially in Prince George's County, because like Prince George's County is not friendly towards food trucks. You know what I mean? And so they'll go towards Montgomery County, they'll go to Howard County, they'll go to Baltimore City. And so we definitely need to be more friendly towards food trucks here in Prince George's County because there are a lot of great food ones.
Let me shift gears a bit, Martin. Here he is. Here he is, my man. My man, 500 grand. Lenny Dawson, I need a crab and shrimp Norfolk on the fly, baby.
Oh, you got it. Come on.
What's going
I'm
on?
talking to Donnie. What's going on?
You got it, man. What's the deal with the food, with the restaurant business? You think that waiters should get more than, how much is it, Martin?
$3.63 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should get more, but I think the general public don't understand that if you do this, then you're going to pay the more for the price of your food in the restaurant. And this is where the disconnect come in. And people, I own a food truck, and people don't understand that you have to pay for this food. I don't get discounts for the price of food. I pay the same prices that everybody else pays for, but I am able to sell my food at a cheaper price because I don't have all that overhead of lights, employees, all these different things that you have in a standing restaurant. But overall, I mean, y'all was talking about DoorDash. What people understand about DoorDash is that they charge a lot of money for these online orders. They want anywhere from 17 to 25%. Okay, so now you turning your food over to a third party. And we all have heard the stories about DoorDash people eating people's food and all this kind of things. And if you're trying to build successful business, it's very, very difficult to turn your food over to a third party because I can't trust that. DoorDash is not going to take responsibility for if your product is messed up when they get to a client. They're not going to take responsibility for that. DoorDash want their 25 or 17%. Bottom line, that's what they want. So
and they're gonna take a wing,
huh?
And they're gonna take a wing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The DoorDash is not going to take no responsibility for it. The business owner got to take responsibility for that. So that's your reputation on the line. It's not DoorDash. That's your reputation. So that's where I get into about that because I know a lot of food truck owners that do that. I don't do it because I just don't trust that. So that's how I feel about that.
Mr. Dawson, I appreciate that. You brought in the very important perspective, the fact that like food costs have went up. The cost of everything has went up. And one of the things, even in DC, they passed I-82, which is the initiative they passed on the ballot, and then the council eventually passed it. But essentially, a lot of the businesses, they now include a service charge, what we know to be a 20% service charge. And one of the things that the Attorney General had to break down is like after charging the service charge, the businesses didn't communicate to the consumer that this service charge doesn't go to the worker. It goes to the house. Right. And so, that's something, of course, that they use to offset the additional cost that would be necessary, of course, to implement something like this. But I guess secondarily, who do you think are the biggest tippers in the food industry?
I would say black people. Black people were my best customers and my worst customers.
Absolutely. But not just black people who have previously or currently work in the service industry. Because they understand what it's like to live and work off tips. Yeah. And so if they're making more money, what are they going to do? They're going to spend more money. What happened when we got our stimulus checks? We stimulated the economy. So in states where we see that they receive a fair minimum wage, they've actually seen more restaurant growth. Not only since COVID, but prior to COVID. And so it's so the thought is like a misnomer that like you can't pay people $6 to $7, $8 more, but still thrive and sustain as a business, right? Like it is our pediology around it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always knew back then, when this was way back in the day when me and Donnie and I was working together. I always knew that somewhere down the line in the future that the restaurant business was going to have to render to Caesar at some point on how they was paying their employees. At some point, they was going to have to render to Caesar because, it's a hard job, to deal with the public. It's a hard job. You're on your feet all day. It's very chaotic. It's very stressful job to work, the front of the house, back of the house. And the amount of money that people was making, it just wasn't there. Back in the day, I was making $12 an hour as a cook. Now, this was you talking in the 80s. I thought that was good money, compared to what now, these guys are making almost $20 an hour. They have no choice but to pay these cooks, but they don't do what we used to do. You know, they're actually doing less now. You know, we used to butcher our own meat. We used to butcher our own fish. Now everything is pre-portioned and stuff like this. And these guys are making way more money than I did now, and they don't do they don't do nowhere near the type of work that we did. But I mean, the industry as a whole here in Wisconsin, what I can tell you is that when I started my food truck, it was during the height of COVID. It was shut down. There was no restaurants open. There was nothing when I started this. And I went through the whole process of going through the shutdown. When vaccines came out, things slowly opened. And I can tell you that a large percentage of these restaurants here, they closed up because they didn't have the people, you know. So COVID gave people a lot of time to think about their lives and their careers and how they want to carry it from there forth. But I benefited from it. My business benefited from it because people didn't want to go in restaurants anymore. I do more outdoor venues with weddings than anything because supper clubs, catering places, they don't have the employees to handle 200 to 300 to 400 people now. So now they go to these outdoor venues, they solicit food trucks, they get 1, 2, or 3 food trucks, and that's how they do it now. And that's been the trend.
Lenny, we only have a couple of minutes. Why don't you plug your business and tell them what's on the menu?
Okay, so yeah, all right. I own Smokehouse Barbecue. I'm up in New London, Wisconsin. I live an hour southeast of Green Bay. We do all the old school barbecue stuff: smoked brisket, pulled pork, mac and cheese. Everything is homemade from scratch. My wife and I, we run the business. We do catering. We do outdoor festivals and concerts and everything. Me and Donnie go way back. As a good friend of mine.
And where you from?
I'm from Baltimore. I've been living in Wisconsin 23 years.
Baltimore.
East Baltimore, Hartford to 25th Street. That's where I'm from.
There you go, son.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a website or a phone number you can put out there, Lenny?
Yeah, I got a website. It's smokehoundbarbecue.com. I have my menu and pictures and everything of what we do out there. So and we on Facebook, Smokehound Barbecue, Instagram. We all over. So right now is wintertime. We shut down for the season. We work 8-9 months out of the year, and that's what we do. So but Donnie, I want to try to come back to Be-More for see a football game. So you might see me.
Go Ravens. Go Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
Martin, we got a couple of minutes. Any final thoughts?
So, Donnie, you know that I'm, big on cannabis. We're gonna see a lot happen in cannabis this year, between new licenses issued out, but also at the state legislature. I'm really excited to see more criminal justice reform in relation to cannabis, and also there's gonna be a bill about labor peace agreements, so we could have more collective bargaining within the cannabis industry, because I think I talked about the abuses earlier that sometimes go untalked about.
Okay, how can people get in touch with you, Councilman, Cannabis Councilman?
At Martin, Martin, for Laurel, FORLAUREL, and you could do it on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So Martin for Laurel.
Are you going to run for office again?
I'm definitely going to be on the ballot again. I'm not sure when, because I got to start this nonprofit first. But, definitely sometime in the next 4 years.
Good deal. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. We're going to take a pause and bring back our next guest, Mr. Wayne Frazier. But it's certainly a pleasure to see both of you in this 2024. I hope you have a very powerful 2024, both of you, Lenny Dawson, Martin Mitchell.
All right, thank
Happy
you.
24. And tell Wayne I said hello.
Yes, sir.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take Look into your hands, a plan your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower, scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder, and f*** all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they'll let me down. I always fought.
I can tell you that 7 years after Freddie Gray, that was 2015, spring, April, May, this is 2022. Communities like Sandtown, all we saw then and now in terms of investment was a renovated Western District Police Station and a new funeral home. That's what West Baltimore got. A new police station and a new funeral home. What kind of optics are they? Was Freddie Gray any different than 1968 Baltimore riots? Dr. King's passing, killing, murder? This is the same?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I think, well, first of all, people who are being violent and burning is that.
All right, we're going to bring up our next guest, Mr. Wayne Frazier from the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association. He's been working on a case with Mr. Ples Jones Jr. that has to do with land, real estate, banking, and finance. And we'll let him explain. Without further ado, Mr. Wayne Frazier. Good morning. Happy 2024, Mr. Wayne Frazier, the Lion.
Thank you, Donnie. Good morning. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year, sir.
It was so nice to listen to the past guests because it illustrated the importance of Black business, the significance of Black business. And this brother went all the way from East Baltimore to Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's a heck of a trip, but he's making it there. But my concern is Black business in Baltimore. And right now there's an assault on a very, very, very famous, large employer of Black folks, and just a significant Black business in Baltimore, and that's known as the P&J Contracting Company, which is now owned by Ples Jones Jr. And he was fortunate enough to be able to purchase that business from his father, Ples Jones Sr., back in 2020. And that's a rarity in our community because I'm scratching my head to come up with a Black-owned business that traded, that sold from father to son or daughter. And I can't think of any.
Sure. The first thing that comes to my mind is the funeral industry because I grew up in that industry and I was thinking about the March family in particular.
Well, I don't know if that was a sale per se.
I don't know about it being a sale.
That's correct. And that's the significance of this.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sale, a price placed on the business that father sold to son. Son then, and this is where the issues began, son then needed financing, an enormous amount of financing, around $6 million to complete this transaction. So the son went to a broker, and the broker took him to the Fulton Bank. And that's where the trouble began, because Fulton Bank, through a series of trick bags, remember James Brown talked about trick bags? Well, through a series of trick bags, Fulton Bank and their accomplice, a major law firm in Baltimore, a blue blood firm known as Gordon Feinblatt, one of their senior partners, Todd Chasen. And then, which is really strange, I mean, I don't know how this got convoluted, but then Fulton Bank, Todd Chasen, and Gordon Feinblatt enlisted the assistance of the Maryland Department of Environment.
Whoa.
And yes, the Maryland Department of Environment to protect, I guess, Maryland Department of Environment's interests, but it surely didn't protect Mr. Pless Jones Jr. interests. A loan was made, and then Fulton Bank demanded that Pless Jones Jr. include in this deal the satisfaction of a compliance agreement with the Maryland Department of Environment on a piece of land that Pless Jones Sr. owned in East Baltimore. Now, this land was originally owned by another brother by the name of Randy Phipps, who goes way back. It's 22 acres of very valuable industrial land set up for for recycling. But this particular land had nothing to do with the purchase of the business. It was in a separate corporation outside of the business. But somehow, and we're trying to figure that out, why did Fulton Bank and its attorneys, Gordon Feinblatt, force Pless Jones Jr. to include the remaining cleanup of this land in their deal? They didn't take it as collateral. And you know, when banks lend money, first thing they look for is how they're going to get repaid. Number one, how are you going to repay me? And number two, if you can't repay me that way, then how are you going to repay me in number two? And that is, oftentimes they take collateral so that they can sell off against that collateral and sell it and retire it. And the plot further thickens because this loan was also guaranteed by our U.S. government through the SBA. Fulton Bank is a preferred lender. That's significant. That means that they can make loans to you and I, any small business out there, under the guise of SBA, book it, and then send it to SBA. And SBA, they don't even review the deals. They just accept it, put it on the shelf, and the only time that they review it is if there's a default. Now, fortunately, Mr. Jones has not defaulted, but this whole fiasco has created a financial strain on him. Recently, this year, because of this cleanup, and and Fulton Bank brought in a major engineering firm, environmental engineer, to monitor this, to help in the compliance of it. And they put $500,000 of the proceeds that Mr. Jones Sr. was to receive in escrow so that they could pay for whatever needed to be done to get the land back into compliance. Well, this engineering company never, ever paid a dime. They paid themselves. And as a result, Mr. Jones had to go into his cash. He's operating a business, underground work, demolition work, what do you call it, grading, all of this earthwork. That's what they do. But he had to take his money out of his operating fund. He's got 52 employees, pay them every other week, and he had to take his money out to pay for this cleanup. And then when he fell behind, the state of Maryland, through the Department of Environment, took him to court, sued him, and he got a $500,000 judgment against him. And he's saying, whoa, what's going on? I didn't sign up for this. And as a result,
apparently he did sign up for it. Who was advising him?
Wasn't me. It was the attorneys. And I'm glad you asked that, Donnie. It was the attorneys. And that's part of the lawsuit. The attorneys, Gordon Feinblatt and their partner, Todd Chasen, who separated himself. I don't know how he did it, but he separated himself from Gordon Feinblatt to pick up this case. And by the way, Fulton Bank brought him in to represent Mr. Jones. And at no time did Fulton Bank or Gordon Feinblatt tell Mr. Jones, inform Mr. Jones, oh, we're also serving as Fulton Bank's counsel. Now you know that.
They are representing both the client and the plaintiff.
You got it. And that's resulted in
well, that seems unethical. It seems that will be against what the Maryland judiciary would stand for, Mr. Frazier.
Well, Donnie, that will be determined because a lawsuit was filed back in December.
I mean, that's like a lawyer representing both sides. Can that happen? It doesn't seem ethical.
Well,
I'm not a lawyer.
But some of these major law firms will argue, and that's what they'll probably argue in this lawsuit, is that, oh, we had one partner working for Fulton Bank over here, and then we have another partner working for their Fulton Bank's client over here, and these two partners aren't speaking to one another. And we know that's a bunch of you-know-what, because it doesn't work that way.
Mr. Frazier, if they going after Marilyn Mosby over signing a form so she could get some money during COVID, I know damn well that they should be all over this.
Well, our new Attorney General, Mr. Anthony Brown.
Yes, sir.
His office will be the one representing the Maryland Department of Environment. And so he will have to step in and resolve this mess because, again, we don't know. We have suspicions, but we don't know the connection between the Todd Chasen, who is with Gordon Feinblatt, and the Assistant Attorney General, who is representing Maryland Department of Environment. We don't know that relationship, but we feel that there's a relationship there because, again, out of the blue, why would they bring, and why would Fulton Bank even allow the additional burden of cleaning up a property that has nothing to do with your borrower, and there's no collateral. You can't do nothing. All you can do is just sit around. So they must be working for the Department of Environment. But we know there's the link between these attorneys. We know that. And we're expecting our new Black Attorney General to look into this and to say, hey, this is convoluted. This is wrong. And because they're party of the lawsuit. Now, let me give you it was 8 counts, and we know what counts are in this lawsuit. It was a civil conspiracy. Now, you know what a conspiracy is when you get 2 or more working together. That's count number 1. Count number 2, breach of contract. Count number 3, legal malpractice. Count number 4, negligence. Count number 5, intentional misrepresentation. Count number 6, neglect and misrepresentation. Count number 7, intentional misrepresentation, concealment, or deceit. That word, it just rings. That dog barked, you're right. It's deceitful. And then 8 punitive damages. And Donnie, they're looking for, let's say this, north of 8 high figures. In this. Fulton Bank, Gordon Feinblatt, the attorney, and Maryland Environment must pay. They must pay because they harmed this man. This man had pressure problems, losing his sight. He had to deal with his family, his wife, and wives say, "What the hell are you getting that for?" That makes it even worse. So that's what this is all about. And it's why did Fulton Bank do this? And who else have they done this to?
It seems like a public relations nightmare for Fulton Bank. Why would they put themselves in such a position?
Well, Donnie,
You used to work in the banking industry. Would you put yourself in such a position?
No. The banking 101 states, do not harm thy borrower. Do not harm thy borrower, because the borrower is the one who's going to repay you. And bankers, they set aside loan loss reserves for potential losses. Generally, it's 1% of a portfolio. But this was ridiculous. It set him up to fail right from the beginning.
And this is a company that's been around for many, many years.
42
PJ
years.
Construction, they've contributed to the building of the city of Baltimore, but they have also contributed to the Black business community. When I think of the Maryland, what was it? The Maryland Minority, what association were they part of?
Maryland Minority Contractors Association.
And I think of Robert Lee Clay. That's who comes to my mind.
That's right. That's correct.
Was Arnold Jolivet a part of it also?
He was the original founder. Him and Clay.
Yeah.
And him and Clay and Pless Jones Sr. Those were the three.
And Randy Phipps was a part of it.
You know it. He was a card-carrying member and proud of it.
And so these were Blacks in the construction industry here in the city of Baltimore. They made sure people had jobs.
And they operated out of the hood. They were in Park Heights. Park Heights is a hub zone. Clay operated off of West Baltimore Street, down in off Caton in Baltimore. And as Randy Phipps was over on the northeast side, where his yard, the 22 acres of land. And see, Donnie, we believe that 22 acres of land is extremely valuable because it has certain certifications as a recycling yard. And the state of Maryland don't provide those types of certifications anymore for any new land. So all the land that's out there is extremely valuable. And we believe that there are sources out there that are connected with the law firms that want their hands on this land. We believe that. Now, we will intend to prove that, but we believe that is the case behind all of this, and that the bankers at Fulton Bank, and that the loan broker who brought the deal to Fulton Bank, the engineering firm, and the law firm, and the attorney who works for the assistant state's attorney who works for the attorney general, we believe that there's a connection between all of them.
What do you think that nexus is? What do you think that commonality is?
Well, Donnie, we believe that they belong to a organization or a religious organization where they know one another and have done deals like this forever. That's what we believe.
Mr. Frazier, how did the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association come to be involved in this?
Mr. Jones, although he is treasurer for the Maryland Minority Contractors Association, that's the one that former Mayor Sheila Dixon heads up. He went to them, and he's a treasurer. His father's the founder. And he told me that they would not provide any assistance. And a number of
that's disturbing.
And a number of those folks, as a part of that group, I've heard that they despise the work that I do. But you know me, I'm fearless. I don't give a hoot about that. So I could not see the brother and his lovely wife and their family lose everything. And that's what was about to happen, because I told you he did not default, but he's running out of cash. So cash is king. And no other bank was going to extend any additional credit to him, nor did Fulton Bank to help him out. And so I said, I can't allow this to happen. So I interviewed him, and he told me that Fulton Bank required him to guarantee the cleanup on a consent decree on a piece of land controlled by the Maryland Department of Environment that had nothing to do with this transaction. I mean, nothing. It was in a separate corporation, nothing to do with this deal. And I'm saying, they did what? And that, with my whole banking experience and background, I'm saying they committed a major wrong. And then they had the SBA guaranteed it. So I immediately jumped into place, reached out to the Fulton Bank people, set up meetings, and to this day, they're saying we did nothing wrong. So we're going to let the circuit court in Baltimore County decide if they did what they did was proper.
Yesterday, Mr. Frazier, you had a press conference. Tell me about it.
Well, we had a press conference, and we had the Baltimore Business Journal, we had the Daily Record, we had the Afro, and we had the Baltimore Times attend the event. And they found what Fulton Bank did to be extremely egregious as well. And but I know, as soon as people, as professionals who know this industry, the law side, you mentioned that whole conflict of interest. I mean, you're not a lawyer, but you saw that right from the beginning. Bankers, I've spoken to them. They said, no, Wayne, we would never, ever underwrite a loan this way, and especially peddle it off to the SBA.
What gets me is the part where the Maryland Department of the Environment becomes a part of it. I mean, that's just over the top.
Again, we believe that there are relationships, these individual relationships, business or personal, between the parties that manipulated this to bring it in, to bring that in for the sole purpose of getting the property back into compliance, so that it increases the value, and maybe, just maybe, it can be traded to one of their friends. And
with only a couple of minutes left, what lessons have we learned? What advice would you pass on to aspiring and emerging business people as a result of this experience? I mean, have you ever experienced anything like this before?
Not in my 26 years banking career, and all of those years after that, I've never experienced anything like this. And the lesson is, ask questions. And if the bank recommends a professional such as an engineering firm or an attorney or a CPA or an insurance company to represent you, if the bank makes that recommendation, then you need to dig deeper to determine what relationship that bank or financial institution has with the party that they're recommending, because it can become convoluted because of those friendly relationships. And friendly relationships means fees that are being paid between, or generated to be paid to one another. And that's my biggest recommendation here. I only wish that Mr. Jones had reached out to me back in 2020 when all of this started, but he didn't.
I thought you were going to say take a lawyer.
Well, I agree. Have a lawyer. Always have your lawyer review. Always have your lawyer review what's coming down.
And any suggestions on who you would recommend for a lawyer? In this case, if you had to, if we could go back in time, who would you recommend to Plus Jones Jr. to get as an attorney?
Well, there's a sister out in Baltimore County. Her name is Tiffany Collins of the Collins Legal Group. She is sharp. She has several young Black partners who are also sharp. They understand business law, commercial law. I would recommend that.
Good deal. Tell us about your company before we go, Mr. Frazier. Put a plug in for the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association. We're in January, but I'm already looking forward to this year's breakfast. There will be a breakfast this year, correct?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Well, that's the second Friday in May. I believe it's May 10th. But we are advocates for inclusion of Black businesses and all the ancillary subgroups that come along with that, meaning Hispanic or Latino women who come along with the term minority participation or disadvantage or supply diversity. And so what we do best is connect the large with the small. And you notice that at our breakfast and other events, we always bring in major corporations, internet or national corporations, some international, but to connect with our members for the sole purpose of each doing business with one another.
You also bring in the major politicians, Mr. Frazier.
Well, I've given up on politicians.
Oh no. Maybe this year, but every year you've had all of the major politicians at your event, Mr. Frazier.
And I had to mature and learn, Donnie, over the 20 years. Meaning the politicians are politicians. The action happens with the CEOs and the CFOs of these major businesses. Government can do but so much. But so I've sort of relaxed on the politicians.
Oh, Mr. Frazier, this is breaking news. Breaking news right here on blackusa.news. Mr. Frazier is no longer engaging politicians. That doesn't even say, it doesn't. Okay. Fine.
Now, this year's lineup, we'll have 20 new inductees, and there'll be not one.
As a matter of fact, if it's the second Friday, that will follow the Baltimore mayoral race
on the 14th of May. I've looked at that. You're right. Now, that won't stop politicians from coming by, but no, I'm not going to be pimped. You heard that term. I'm not going to be pimped anymore. And politicians tend to pimp you, and it's not going to happen.
Can I tell you my favorite guest of all of the breakfasts that I've been to at Martin's West? My favorite guest of all?
Who is that?
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Oh, my God. Damn, Don, you're going back to 2010, maybe 2012. I know it was in that time frame. But yes, Sugar is doing very well. He just sold his mansion out there in, what do they call it?
Palmer Park?
No, in San Diego, California.
Oh, San Diego.
Yeah. But he is doing extremely well, and he has major connections up in Atlantic City. And so he funds a number of businesses up in the Atlantic City area.
Okay, Tracy wants to know where she can get information about the breakfast. It's mwmca.org, correct?
Yes, www.mwmca.org.
Good deal. Mr. Frazier, thank you for joining us. And we wish you all the best. Happy 2024.
Thank you, Donnie, for having us and listening.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Thank you all. Good morning, world.